Executive Director Radu, would you please read the roll?
Regent Bailey?
Here.
Regent Bradley?
Here.
Regent Delgado? Regent Evers? Regent Farrell? Regent Grebe? Regent Hall? Regent Harsey? Regent Higgins? Regent Langness? Regent Manydeeds? Regent Milner?
Here.
Regent Mueller? Regent Peterson? Regent Pruitt? Regent Tyler? Regent Vasquez? Regent Whitburn? A quorum is present.
Thank you. The minutes of the February and March 2016 Board of Regents meetings have been provided. May I have a motion to approve these minutes? All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The reports of the Higher Education Aids Board and the Wisconsin Technical College System Board have been provided. Are there any comments or questions regarding these reports? Hearing none, we will go on to our meeting this morning. Good morning. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Chancellor Miller and the UW Green Bay campus community for your outstanding hospitality. It has been a real treat to be here and to get a behind-the-scenes look at Lambeau Field last night. By the way, the food was delicious, the conversations inspiring, and we had a wonderful time. Very much appreciating having a chance to meet your faculty, to have a chance to meet the community at large, and our best of luck to you as you move on. I'd also like to welcome John Mako, who's here. Representative Mako is here. Would you please stand? We have an odd configuration that we're not used to. Well, welcome. We always appreciate when we have an opportunity to get acquainted with our local representatives and senators, and we very much appreciate them taking time out of their busy schedule to join us. Later this morning, we'll be presenting our annual Regents Academic Staff Excellence Awards, the UW system's highest recognition for members of the academic staff. We are expecting to welcome the families and friends and colleagues of our honorees. So if you see some in the visitors galleries, that's an explanation. I also want to remind the Regents that the UW system's Poster in the Rotunda event is happening very soon. This is a celebration of undergraduate research, and it's coming on next Wednesday, September 13th, in the state capitol. This event is now in its 13th year, 13 and 13, interesting, and only seems to improve with age. It's a wonderful showcase of the many and varied research endeavors taken on by our student researchers and their faculty advisors across the UW system. I encourage you to look around and ask a few questions if you're able to get to this event. And I promise if you are able to go there, and if you do, you will be impressed by the passion and hard work that is so clearly invested in these projects. It's also a popular opportunity to join other UW representatives in making legislative visits. Please consider putting this on your calendar, and we look forward to seeing you there. I'd also like to provide you with an update on the Tuition Setting Policy Task Force, which is chaired by Regent Higgins. In February, the task force focused on how the needs and priorities of the state should influence tuition setting process. This is one of the 4 factors President Cross asked the task force to consider. Regent Tyler joined the task force to discuss the work of the Governor's Council on Workforce Investment, which he chairs, and to present information regarding Wisconsin's aging workforce and the implication of that to our state's economy. Regent Tyler shared the various efforts of the many state agencies, advocacy groups, and businesses involved in workforce development, and concluded with an overview of career exploration efforts and new requirements for school districts related to career and academic plans. Several members of the task force also shared how their institution assess and respond to state and local needs, working with employers and communities to address those needs, and using the labor market projections to assess the supply and demand for graduates in particular fields. The task force met again last week to review and discuss our existing tuition policies codified in Regent Policy Document 32.5 and how these principles might be updated. The task force is scheduled to meet later this month to continue its work reviewing and analyzing various tuition strategies, affordabilities, and how tuition policy can be used to address affordability. I want to thank Regent Higgins for his hard work and dedication thus far. Tim has been working diligently to lead the task force while communicating the work of the task force and building relationships with our key legislative leaders. We'll keep you appraised of the task force work and progress. Regent Higgins, would you like to say a few words?
Thanks, Regent President Milner. Really, I have to applaud the work that Regent Tyler did at our meeting before the last. Did an excellent job of elucidating the goals of the Governor's Commission on Workforce Investment. So we really appreciate that. And second, I've got to say I'm very, very proud of the work that all of the members of the task force are doing to keep abreast of our voluminous materials. So thanks very much for the excellent report.
Thank you very much, Regent Higgins. And again, thank you for your work, and thank you to all the members of the task force for their work as well. We've got a little bit of housekeeping. On another note, I'd like to preview a potential bylaw revision related to our board meeting calendar that we'd like to bring your way this June. You'll recall that the Board of Regent Office recently asked your thoughts on various alternative meeting schedules. There was strong support for our current schedule of 6 two-day meetings and 2 one-day meetings per year. However, there was also support for providing some flexibility to allow the board president to convert a 2-day meeting to a 1-day meeting if it is system sponsored, and or to cancel a 1-day meeting if circumstances permit, and that with ample notice to board members in all cases. I don't envision that this is going to happen very often, and it would only happen with the 4 meetings each year that the board office hosts in Madison, and not in the campus hosted meetings. That's an important, I said that twice because that's an important message to send to all of you. A bylaw change would be needed to allow this flexibility to change the length of time for a given meeting. We'll return to this topic next month, but I shouldn't say next month, we'll return to this topic next June. But I wanted to mention it now so you'll have an opportunity to think about it and prepare for any questions you might have, to make a decision in your own mind about it, because as I said, it's going to require a bylaw change. You'll note that we have a student panel discussion on the agenda this morning. I want to reiterate our appreciation to students so clearly expressing their opinions on issues that are of vital importance to all of us. Since December, we have been listening, and more than that, we have been acting on what we've heard. As I described in some detail at our meeting last month in Madison, conversations have been taking place at campuses all across the UW system in recent months, focusing on important issues of equity, diversity, and inclusivity. Students, regents, chancellors, and a broad spectrum of campus and community members have been engaged in this process. As I said before, these kinds of intentional meetings are occurring because we realize and we recognize that we have more work to do. We also know how necessary it is that this work is accomplished. We are continuing that work today. Later this morning, A panel of students is appearing before this board to share their real-life experiences, both good and bad, and to report on the meetings that happened at their campus level. At the conclusion of the meeting today, regents and chancellors will get together with students from every UW system institution for what we're calling a listening luncheon, to further discuss the challenges and opportunities before us. There's much to be done, and we expect that this collaborative dialogue will provide a constructive foundation for our ongoing efforts. Change won't happen overnight, much as we might want it to, but we are committed to make deliberate, thoughtful progress towards our shared goals on each and every one of our campuses across the state and for each and every one of the groups affected. Now, with that, I'd like to turn it over to President Cross. President Cross?
Thank you, Regent President Milner. I don't have many items to include in my report today. However, let me provide you with some of the latest information on our strategic planning process. We've said all along the process is much like a funnel. We're collecting a lot of information, and now we're approaching the outlet of that funnel. We have relied on stakeholder and expert groups over the last few months, and we've narrowed things down. We've collected a broad amount of data in these listening sessions, and there are themes emerging, and we're trying to assign priorities and importance to those themes. We spent the last several months in our strategic planning steering committee pulling all the information together as we work to develop the final strategic plan. We have a lot more work to do, and I expect we will spend the better part of our summer actually stitching all of this together. Our goal remains to have a draft strategic plan ready to share with you and the public later this year. Hopefully preliminary information in June, and if all goes well, in August, we'll hope to have the first plan to you. I greatly appreciate the contributions of the stakeholders at every level in the process. We've really learned a lot, and we've benefited greatly from the wealth of information, the direction, the feedback from our allies throughout the state. We're really beginning to see some of those come together. It's quite common to say, we heard that over in La Crosse, we heard that in Parkside, we heard that at Milwaukee. So I look forward to bringing that to the board as we refine and improve that in a way that makes it very understandable. Now for some news from around the system. I will take a few moments to do this. As I always remind you, today's report is merely one pass through the incredible collection of stories our institutions share from month to month. You can find much more information about each of these items and others on our website. So let's begin right here in Green Bay. The university has had several reasons to dance over the last month, a couple of which you may have heard about. Both the men's and women's basketball teams were named Horizon League champions and earned an invitation to the NCAA tournament. This marked the first time since 1994 that both teams were deemed dance partners in post-regular season play. So congratulations to all the student athletes who competed. The university also recently wrapped up its 2016 Business Week. In its 6th year, Business Week gave students the opportunity to participate in a variety of events, all of which involve community business leaders. It also involved a mock interview day, job and internship fair, and elevator pitch competition. If you've ever done an elevator pitch competition, you have to speak fast, clearly, and very succinctly. It's a great lineup, so my compliments to you, Chancellor Miller. Last month, Governor Walker signed a bill that provides money to UW colleges so they can use that for granting emergency funds to students. These grants can be distributed for unforeseen expenses like medical bills or car repairs that could deter students from continuing their degree program. This bill is designed to prevent that and help maintain the UW College's core mission of providing access to students across the state, and we thank the sponsors and supporters For those of you familiar with how these small emergency loan how they work, it's important to note that they have been proven to be very effective in retaining students that are on the margin. In conjunction with several other top universities, UW Extension's Division of Continuing Education, Outreach, and E-Learning recently launched the University Learning Store. The program will offer industry-validated micro-credentials for valuable skills they will be able to include on their resume. These micro-credentials are available for far less cost than a traditional college course and are positioned to address the skills gap through trainings that require hands-on, skills-based assessments. So my compliments to Chancellor Sandeen and Dean David Scable and Aaron Brower as well. A really neat thing to do. For the first time since 2009, UW La Crosse has earned a spot on the Peace Corps annual list of top volunteer-producing mid-sized colleges and universities across the country. UWL ranks number 20, with 14 alumni currently serving overseas as Peace Corps volunteers. Really a notable accomplishment. My compliments to Chancellor Gao. You may have read about this in national and even international news. UW-Milwaukee physicists led one of the key teams in a multinational effort to detect gravitational waves, a phenomenon Albert Einstein predicted a century ago. Gravitational waves radiating from an ancient collision of two black holes were detected on September 14th. The student-faculty team provided the framework to look for signals in a sea of data collected at the detection facilities. Another example of how we are preparing the next generation of scientists. Congratulations, Chancellor Mone. UW Parkside internships are going international. CNH, industrial scholarships offered through the UW Parkside Italian Exchange Program, enabled Parkside students Jonathan Dubinsky and Christian Hansen to take part in a study abroad opportunity that evolved into a U.S.-Italian internship, thanks in part to the efforts of UW Parkside business professor Dr. Abby Kervilla. A great partnership and experience for students. Thank you, Chancellor Ford. UW Superior's Educational Leadership Department has responded to the shortage in special education teachers by announcing a new licensure minor in special education. Opening for enrollment this fall, it will provide students the opportunity to earn a teaching license in their major area as well as in special education. Congratulations, Chancellor Wachter. UW-Whitewater's annual economic impact on the region is more than $407 million. That's according to a new study which looked at the campus's effect on the economy in Walworth, Rock, and Jefferson counties, and takes into account university spending on payroll, supplies, capital investments, and spending from students, faculty, staff, and visitors. UW-Whitewater also supports 4,300 jobs and generates an estimated $18 million in annual tax revenue for the state. An excellent study. My compliments, Chancellor Copper. Century Insurance presented UW-Stevens Point with the largest donation in the university's 122-year history. The gift of $4 million will endow 2 new faculty positions and create a new major in data analytics. The gift is the largest single donation Century has ever made to any organization. A great collaboration for UW-Stevens Point and its students. My compliments, Chancellor Patterson. 2 more quick notes. On May 5th, UW-Stevens Point will break ground on the long-awaited new chemistry biology building. Construction of the new 4-story building is expected to be completed in the spring of 2018. And of course, congratulations to UW-Stevens Point, Stevens Point men's hockey team, which won the D3 National Championship. Another example of WIAC excellence. The UW River Falls women's ice hockey team competed in the D3 Frozen Four for the 3rd year in a row. After beating Elmira College with an overtime goal on March 18th, they went on to battle 2-time defending national champion SUNY Plattsburgh in the NCAA National Championship game the next day. The team lost, but the Falcons ended up being ranked second in the nation. 3 of UW River Falls players have been named to the D3 All-American team. Also, a UW River Falls undergraduate journalism student, Natalie Howell, was named one of the 10 National Newspaper Association Foundation News Fellows for 2016. So congratulations, Natalie and the Falcon Nation. For the second year in a row, UW Stout saw an increase in its graduate employment. They went from 97.3% of the in 2014-15. They went up to 97.3 from 97.1 previously. That is an amazing accomplishment, and that number speaks for itself. That's phenomenal, Chancellor Meyer. My compliments to UW Stout, faculty, staff, students, and administrators there. A pair of UW Eau Claire chemistry professors received a prestigious grant that, combined with an innovative teaching strategy, will increase the number of Blue Golds who graduate with real-world experience in the research area. Dr. Sanchi Hati, Associate Professor of Chemistry, and Dr. Sudeepa Charhiye, Assistant Professor of Chemistry, received a $337,000 3-year grant from the National Institutes of Health Academic Research Enhancement Award Program to support their research focused on the interplay of protein dynamics and function. Congratulations to these professors and to the university and to Chancellor Smith. Well done. Also, for the second consecutive year, the UW Eau Claire men's track and field team won the NCAA Division III Indoor Track and Fields Championship on March 12th. Congratulations. More proof that the sky is not the limit for any UW System student. Drew Farwell, a UW Oshkosh physics major and national non-traditional adult student, has entered into a higher education space race. He is hoping to help UW Oshkosh become the first university to launch a powered rocket into outer space. It's an incredible project, drawing upon Drew's math and science knowledge and skills. I encourage you to check out this story and video on our website and UW Oshkosh's website. Let me just say they feature footage from a rocket-mounted camera, which I found pretty incredible. My compliments, Chancellor Levitt and the UW Oshkosh folks. A group of UW Platteville students are collaborating on a research project that examines a toxin responsible for a food poisoning staph infection in humans. Students will present their research on Wednesday, April the 13th, at the Posters in the Rotunda event at the Capitol in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'll speak more about that in just a moment. Great work, Chancellor Shields and the students at Platteville. Here's a story about UW system institutions collaborating and rallying around a promising startup. UW-Madison computer science undergraduate Daniel Litvak invented a weight training monitoring device that's being tested with the UW-Oshkosh football team. Weight Up embeds a computer chip, a location finding device, and a Bluetooth transmitter into an elastic band. With one band on each forearm, the device can signal the band's location to a nearby tablet computer to show the location, direction, and speed of the lifter's hands. It's a pretty neat idea. Well done, Daniel, UW-Madison and UW-Oshkosh. You may have noticed a bit of a theme this month's quick spin around the system, quite a bit on research. Well, next Wednesday, we'll keep that theme going. As Regent President Milner noted, the UW system is holding its 13th annual Posters in the Rotunda event, showcasing UW undergraduate research from all the institutions. Outstanding undergraduate student researchers and their faculty advisors from across the UW system will showcase their research and join other UW representatives in making legislative visits. The UW system is a national leader in undergraduate research, the benefits which are multifaceted. It is, in fact, a high-impact practice. It contributes to retention, to higher graduation rates, and to workforce and economic development. The research will be on display from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. on April 13th. I hope many of you can join us, if possible. all of you. That'd be great. We are excited that Wisconsin Eye will be joining us this year to feature the students, faculty, mentors, partners, and others. The event program is now available on our posters in the Rotunda website, and we'll be sure to share more after this great event wraps up. Well, that concludes my news report for the day, and I encourage you to read and share more success stories from around the system at our website. So now, I would like Lorenzo Loans to join us if he could. Lorenzo is our featured student spotlight this month. Lorenzo, you come forward up here. Please have a seat.
No, actually, he's going to go to the podium.
Oh, yes, okay, great.
Yes.
Lorenzo is a senior here at UW Green Bay, double majoring in human biology and psychology. He's now a Green Bay native, vice president of UW-GB student government. I met him earlier this morning. Lorenzo, please share with us some of your thoughts. We're pleased to have you here today and to honor you.
Thanks, President Cross. First, I'd like to welcome you guys to the campus. Thanks for coming. Thanks for welcoming me to speak. As you can see, I'm not really a public speaker. But I guess I kind of know this story better than anyone else, so we'll kind of go along with it. Who am I? My name is Lorenzo Loans, obviously a psych major and a human biology major. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, and I moved to Green Bay midway through high school, because my mom got a job here. And it was an interesting transition from going from inner city Chicago to a Green Bay Preble High School. So from going from a predominantly African-American high school to a predominantly white school, I was faced with some obstacles that seemed to be overwhelming, but I had a lot of support, a lot of friends and family that helped me get through it. In high school, I wasn't actually a good student. I was, the student that would get kicked out of the class, and I like to throw stuff at people and crack jokes, and I kind of still, people that know me, I guess I still kind of do that stuff. Somehow I get away with it. But for me, one of the biggest things growing up, my grandfather always told me, one of us can't do all the things that all of us can do together. And I always, when you're in these types of positions to talk about, your accomplishments, I think sometimes we get a little individualistic just as a society. And, it's, what have you done? This person's smart. This person worked hard. And those things are true, or I like to think they're true anyway. But one of the things that is extremely instrumental for me and my success is the people around me, my mentors, my advisors, my professors. They've been extremely supportive of me, and I'm really thankful, because one of the things that I started, I guess I should tell you how I got to be a major in psychology and human biology. Like I said, I wasn't a good student in high school, and my school psychologist actually came and pulled me aside, and she gives you the usual talk, I see potential, I see ability, and I'm just like, well, you're paid to say that. And I mean, and honestly, my motto in high school was, C's get degrees, right? I'm just trying to get out of here. I want to get a job. I don't want to hear any of this nonsense. And she really opened me up to, she really gave me perspective, because as I look back, I mean, that's probably not a student that most people would want to do. I'm not the type of person, I wouldn't want to deal with myself when I was younger, unfortunately. But just the fact that she saw me for where I was and not where she felt I should be has been extremely helpful for me. And that's actually how I started school being a psychology major. I wanted to be a school psychologist because, she turned my life around, and I wanted to do that for other students. I wanted to kind of give back, because I know that, some people's skill set lay outside of the realm of our formal education system. And I know I was one of those students. So if I can give back by being a school psychologist and being that piece that was instrumental for me, that would be important. And then I got into a physio psych class. I started studying the brain. And that kind of got a little fascinating, studying drugs, addiction, mental health, and then I started to say, okay, well, I think I want to go into neuroscience. And so that's how I got into human biology. I graduate here in May, and I'm looking to pursue my PhD at the University of Iowa in neuroscience. I want to be a medical researcher. I have a passion for the diseases of the nervous system, in particular Parkinson's. I have a number of family members that are diagnosed with Parkinson's, and it's kind of sad to see, because it's a disease that doesn't have a cure, and all we can really do is just kind of offset the symptoms now. And so just getting in and trying to understand kind of what's the mechanisms behind it, and try and come up with some type of cure or treatment that's more effective than it is now, than the way we treat it now, is something that drives me and wakes me up every day. So I don't know, that's me. I don't know if anyone has any particular questions, but.
Would any of the regents like to ask our guest student, our spotlight student, any questions? Yes, Regent Bradley.
Do you think that most students at UW Green Bay appreciate the interdisciplinary nature of the curriculum, or is that something we talk about and most students aren't aware of that as being a special characteristic of this campus?
I think they're interested. I think they're interested. It's just hard to see where you can apply some of this stuff. I think probably one of my an advantage that I have coming from an institution that has an interdisciplinary program, when you bring in expertise from different fields, it just increases your likelihood or your effectiveness in solving problems. So I think they do appreciate the interdisciplinarity. It's more creative, and as I talk to students, they really like it. It's just they wish that they can get. It's kind of hard. Obviously, we're in a tough time with these budget cuts, but we just wish that we could get more faculty members that kind of reach across different disciplines and looking at things in different perspectives. But I think it's, especially in the funding climate, I mean, you have to be able to collaborate with people, right? And so that's one of the biggest things in research is, it's not just this expertise, it's, your spin on it, this person's spin, put it together to kind of put together some comprehensive understanding of some type of phenomenon. And yeah, interdisciplinary is pretty big, it's pretty huge, I think. It's extremely important.
Other questions? Well, I had the pleasure of having breakfast with Mr. Loans, and Lorenzo, I thought it was interesting when you talk about interdisciplinary. He had the opportunity to go to both the Trump visit here and also the Sanders visit here, and his approach was he very much drew on his psychology that you've had. I thought that was very interesting. So we want to thank you very much for talking to us here today. We want to congratulate you on your success and wish you all the best. Unfortunately, all the best in Iowa, but that's a good place to study. So congratulations.
Thank you, Gina.
We're going to move on to the business portion of our meeting. I call upon Regent Manydeeds to present the report of actions taken by Capital Planning and Budget Committee.
Thank you, President Miller. The Capital Planning and Budget Committee approved the minutes from the February 4th, 2015 meeting, and we heard a presentation by UW Green Bay that featured upcoming 2015-17 capital budget projects, as well as plans for future renovation and remodeling projects and infrastructure improvements that are needed by this campus. We also had a presentation by UW College on the report on the city and county financial support that they received. Vice Chancellor for Administration and Financial Services Steve Weldick states that cities and counties in Wisconsin provided about $8.5 million of support to the UW colleges in the year 2015. We also had a report by Vice President Alex Rowe on recent State Building Commission actions in February, and updated the committee on gift and grant funded projects and the progress of the 2017-19 capital budget preparations. Now for the resolutions that we unanimously approved. First, Resolution 1.3C. This is brought by the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, requesting authority to construct the Garfield Avenue Corridor Improvement Project and adjust the campus boundary accordingly. During the next 2 years, this project will reconstruct a portion of Garfield Avenue and replace the road surface, curb and gutter, sidewalk, lighting, and subsurface utilities. It will also renovate the nearby Roosevelt Avenue cul-de-sac, construct a campus gateway entrance, which is very important for this campus, and provide replacement accessible parking. The campus boundary will be adjusted to include the portion of the 2 avenues that were vacated by the City of Eau Claire as a result of this improvement project. Next were 3 resolutions brought by the Madison campus, 1, 3D, E, and F. First one, Madison requests authority to adjust the project budget and construct the music performance building project. The new 2-story, 7,840 square foot facility will be known as the Hamel Music Center and will contain a 650-seat concert hall, a 320-seat recital hall, a large rehearsal room, a lobby, and support spaces for the School of Music. This project is funded by a $55.8 million gift, $5 million of which will be provided by the William Vilas Trust. The budget increase is necessary to provide additional acoustical work in the recital and concert halls and to cover increases due to inflation since the time of the project's original enumeration in 2007. The second Madison Resolution, E, they request authority to enter into a temporary land use agreement to allow the Sustainable Resource Institute Incorporated to construct a 4,500 square foot education and outreach center at the Kemp Natural Resources Station, and to accept the completed facility as a gift in kind. This center will not only provide classrooms and related space to support the station's research and institutional programs, but also accommodate a wide range of other uses, such as UW departments, state and federal agencies, other universities, the forest industry, and the general public. This is located up in Woodruff, Wisconsin. The last Madison Resolution, F, requests authority to enter into a new lease to provide office space for the College of Letters and Sciences Center for Healthy Minds, which is a global leader in conducting novel research to revolutionize understanding of the mind, emotions, and well-being. The center is expected to undergo significant growth during the next 5 years, and this new space will provide its faculty and staff with adequate collaborative office space that is not available at its current location or anywhere else on campus. The next 2 resolutions, first by the system, G, 13G, requests approval of 5 all-agency maintenance and repair projects totaling $2 million at 3 campuses, La Crosse, Madison, and Manitowoc. These projects address utility repair, renovation, programmatic remodeling and renovation, and energy conservation. And the final resolution, 13H, brought by UW Oshkosh, requests authority to increase the budget of the Reeve Union Entrance and Expansion Project, which addresses the accessibility of the building, its visual appearance, and space needs for student organizations. The increase is necessary to complete the original approved scope of the project and to match recent bid results. President Milner, I request a motion to approve the actions of the Capital Budget and Planning Committee.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on any of these agenda items? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. I now call on Regent Hall to present a report of actions taken by the Research, Economic Development, and Innovation Committee. Regent Hall?
UW System, the UW System Vice President Jim Villa provided a preview of the new web portal that will provide an entry point for students, employers, and our statewide partners into the UW System Talent Initiative. He also led a discussion about increased university connection to and alignment with the various career pathways that are anticipated to support current and future statewide workforce needs. WEDC Vice President of Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Aaron Hager, provided an update of the increasingly active and diverse entrepreneurial environment in Wisconsin and WEDC's role in collaborating with partners to support these innovative startups across the state. WEDC is a key financial and strategic partner with our UW campuses, with Wisconsin Systems, and with hundreds of Wisconsin entrepreneurs who have campus and community relationships across Wisconsin. And then finally, UW Green Bay Chancellor Gary Miller, our campus host, was joined by a panel including the chair of the UW Green Bay Council of Trustees, Lou LaCalci, the chair of the Council of Trustees Advocacy Committee, Craig Dickman, president of the Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, Dr. Jeff Raffin, and superintendent of Green Bay Area Public Schools, Dr. Michelle Lagenfeld. These panelists provided an update on UW Green Bay's diverse and wide-ranging economic, community development, talent, and research initiatives, and importantly, on several joint initiatives. These programs, including early college and turbocharged pathway initiatives, will provide career development resources for elementary and high school students that include the vision of providing 15 college credits for every student before graduation from high school.
Thank you, Regent Hall. Moving on, I now call on Regent Whitburn to present a report of the Education Committee. Regent Whitburn.
The Education Committee approved 9 new academic programs and a redesignation and the creation of a new school at UW Superior. Unless someone objects, I would like to deal with all of these programs in mass. We approved a Master's of Social Work and a Master's in Computer Science at Whitewater, both a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science in Geospatial Analysis and Technology at Eau Claire, a collaborative online Master of Science in Health and Wellness Management to be housed at Parkside with Green Bay, River Falls, Stevens Point, and Superior participating together with the Extension, a Bachelor of Science in Data Analytics at Stevens Point, a Bachelor of Science in STEM Middle Childhood Early Adolescence Education at Platteville. And at Parkside, we approved 3 new programs, a Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education, another one in Early Childhood Education, and the third in Special Education. Finally, the committee approved redesignating Superior's Department of Business and Economics into the newly created School of Business and Economics. Therefore, I would move approval at this time of Resolutions 11C1, C2, Resolution 1D, 11H, 12, and 11H3, and Resolution 11J.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just so everybody listening to Regent Whitburn is clear, could President Cross or one of the chancellors comment on programs that were discontinued in order to have this list of what we're approving? It just sounds like we're adding a whole bunch of programs, and we often lose sight that there's been consolidation of programs, there's been elimination of programs. So just for balance, if there could be just something on the record about what has led up to the request to approve additional programs.
Sure. Regent Whitburn?
Well, I think at the last minute, at the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, we heard a report on programs added last year. I think we added 17 last year. I think we suspended 3 and we discontinued 6 others. Does that sound about right, Jane? Sounds about right. More or less. Most of these initiatives that we're looking at today are going to be funded with existing resources. We heard from the President's report earlier that the grant from Century Insurance is going to find its way into the support of this program at Stevens Point that we're approving.
Could I just add, as I remember, it's my memory, several of them combined programs now existing, so it's one program where there were 2. One I can remember is hiring 2 new people. The rest are doing all of these within department, just about within their own personnel that they have and just kind of enriching how they're using those individuals. The education ones at Parkside, for example, are dipping into what they have, reorganizing it and putting out a new program, as we heard, the 3 degrees. So I think it sounds like more degree end result, but it's because it's moving, almost all of them are moving into new areas that are in high demand. The data analytics, for example, at Stephen's point, the world is wanting people who know big data. And so it's answering a high, that was my reaction listening at the committee meeting and reading our material.
To further comment, 3 at Parkside, Regent Bradley, in the 3-county area, a need for 80 new kindergartner teachers in the next 6 years. This program meant to answer the mail. Statewide, we have evidently 527 teachers working with the disabled in emergency credentialed status. Again, the program being offered targeted at mild to moderate disabilities will again help answer the mail. I pointed out in our conversations about those particular programs the important synergies locally that these programs appear to meet the needs locally and in the area going forward.
That's a very good question, Regent Bradley, and I would ask if any of our chancellors or provosts would like to speak to this. Yes? And please share your institution.
Okay, I'm Mitty Nemec-Stenherter from UW-Platteville, and I can only speak for our case, but our program, it is not an additional education program. It is actually replacing what is presently in place in order to grant our students, our graduates, more flexibility in finding jobs in the STEM areas.
Thank you. Chancellor?
From UW-Whitewater, these are programs that really are meeting a market demand. And in terms of the Masters in Social Work, we have one of the largest undergraduate programs in the state. There's great demand for this master's degree, and likewise with the master's degree in computer science, this is a program that was designed with input from our business community, our regional community, again designed to meet the needs of our community and our region with great demand.
Thank you.
Freddie Byte from UW Parkside, and in our instance, what we're doing is moving from an elementary education with pathways to a secondary education as a major in order to improve the credentials of potential teachers. And then additionally, the other 2 programs, the early childhood education as well as the special education, as Regent Whitburn had kind of indicated, was to meet the tremendous demand within the region.
Thank you. Chancellor?
Yes, I'll keep it brief. The program that we hope you'll be approving in a few minutes is an extension of decades of work from a geography program. We have a wonderful history of strong arts and sciences at UW-Eau Claire, and our faculty have been on the cutting edge of how do you apply what might be considered traditional liberal arts programming to the needs of society and businesses today. I've been contacted from academics across the country congratulating us on this program. We've been approached by companies in France about the particular technology and algorithms that we're using. You had a chance to meet Regent Scholar Hoopy at one of our last board meetings for his work in this area. While many institutions are working on flying drones, and that's exciting to watch, our program is unique because it actually helps determine where the drones go and how to properly assess the data that's coming from it. So UW-Eau Claire, with the approval of this program, will be an international leader, and it is through the effort of courses that have been developed over the last decade. This is just simply a repackaging and certifying of the courses that we'd already dedicated with our existing faculty. Very proud of this program.
And thank you for all the comments. This gives us an opportunity to explain how our chancellors and how their administrative staff and our faculty are realigning and our programs that we have within the institution. Thank you again for the question, Regent Bradley. We have another comment, and otherwise, yes, otherwise we're going to go vote on the motion. Regent Whitburn?
I suggest we vote on the motion.
Yes. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving on, Regent Whitburn?
The Vials Trust is making just over $7 million available to fund appropriate requests from the chancellors at UW-Madison and UWM. I'll move Resolution 11I, via which we will accept these dollars.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The committee heard a very interesting presentation from Green Bay Provost Greg Davis in and around the organizational and budget structure, making possible the interdisciplinary teaching, research, and scholarship on the campus. And finally, at the request of Chancellor Blank and the Madison University Committee, the Education Committee approved necessary modifications to the UW-Madison faculty policies and procedures. By way of background, portions of Madison's FP&P have in the past and going forward do require approval of this board. You may recall that after the legislature made changes in the UW layoff provisions, and the Madison Faculty Senate went ahead and amended their FP&P, they did that prior to the Regents' new layoff policies being approved. Now that the Regent policy is in place, some changes have been required in the Madison FP&P. The policies obviously need to be in alignment. Tom Stafford, our counsel, has been coordinating this work. Chancellor Blank had communicated to our president, to our board leadership, and to me her strong desire to approve the recommended changes in this meeting so that the campus stakeholders will know exactly where they stand. The Chancellor also has been collaborating closely with the members of the University Committee, the group that serves as the Executive Committee of the Faculty Senate. Two members of the University Committee appeared before the committee yesterday indicating their comfort with the document and the changes that we have before us. Provost Mangelsdorf represented the Chancellor in urging us to proceed. So the Education Committee unanimously adopted these changes to UW-Madison's faculty policy and procedures. So I now move Resolution 11L.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Does that complete your report?
It does.
Thank you. Moving on, I asked Regent Mueller to present a report of actions taken by the Business and Finance Committee. Regent Mueller?
Thank you, Madam President. We heard from our host campus on the topic of business and finance in a transitional time. The presentation focused on specifics of how the campus institution is navigating the current fiscal environment. We discussed and approved non-resident and graduate tuition changes at 5 UW institutions: La Crosse, Milwaukee, Platteville, Stout, and Whitewater. The changes will provide enhanced revenue and recognize the market forces at play. I'd stress that no changes were made to resident undergraduate tuition rates. We, in the committee, spent the majority of our time discussing the management of systems trust funds. At the end of fiscal year 2014-15, as of June 30, the funds held net assets of almost $530 million, but that is a decrease of about $10 million from the previous year. Gifts were up slightly, returns lagged slightly, disbursements to benefit UW institutions were up slightly. And in the second report, the annual endowment benchmarking report, we reviewed data showing that UW trust funds performance has lagged peers in the 1- and 3-year periods, but essentially matched the 5-year rate of return, and for the 10-year period exceeded the average rate of return of our peers. From those proceeds, we're spending about 4% annually, which is slightly below, slightly more conservative other institutions in our peer group. And finally, in that area, we discussed the most recent quarterly investment report where performance against benchmarks has been mixed. We continued this discussion in our afternoon session, and you'll hear more about this from Regent Grebe when we had a joint session of the Audit Committee and the Business and Finance Committee. Back to Business and Finance, we approved a one-time transfer from the TRIP Trust of $200,000 to the Brittingham House Maintenance Account. This transfer funds various maintenance work performed by UW-Madison. The committee next received a high-level summary of the third quarter financial management report. The summary compares budgeted to actual revenues and expenditures through the third quarter of this fiscal year. And in the GPR tuition category, the one that arguably we're most interested in, both expenses and revenues are running slightly below what was budgeted. I'd like to thank the system for continuing to work on a dashboard to help monitor this financial activity. The committee approved a UW-Madison contractual agreement with Agilis Biotherapeutics, LLP. It's for the manufacture and phase 1 clinical trial of therapeutic substances to address neurological issues, what we heard about so eloquently earlier today. The institution, in this case the Weizmann Center, is expected to receive a little over $1.5 million under the terms of this agreement. And lastly, the committee approved a UW-Eau Claire dining services contract with Sudeco Operations. That contract will be effective on June 1st for a 1-year period with the option of 9 one-year extensions. And UW-Eau Claire was quite proud to note that this new contract represents savings for them in the provision of their dining services. So with that, Madam President, on behalf of the unanimous vote of the Business and Finance Committee, I now move adoption of 12C, which is the approval of the non-resident and graduate program tuition increases at 5 institutions. 12G, approval of the TRIP Trust transfer. Resolution 12I, approval of the contractual agreement between the Weizmann Center and Agilis Biotherapeutics. And 12J, approval of the UW-Eau Claire Dining Services contractual agreement with Sodexo.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on any of these items? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Now, I would ask Regent Grebe to present a report of actions taken by the Audit Committee as well as the joint session of the Audit and Business and Finance Committee. Regent Grebe?
Thank you. The Audit Committee met yesterday morning and reviewed a series of audit reports that had been issued since our last meeting. We briefly reviewed highlights of the NCAA athletics reports for UW-Milwaukee and UW-Parkside, focusing primarily on proper accounting of revenues and expenses. We also reviewed audit reports addressing cash handling audits for UW-La Crosse, UW-Platteville, and UW-Whitewater, the purchasing card auditing letter for all institutions, the international education audit for UW-Platteville, and grading data security reports for UW-La Crosse, UW-Platteville, UW-River Falls, UW-Stevens Point, UW-Superior, and UW-Whitewater. We had substantial discussion regarding concerns related to cash handling, purchasing cards, and grading data security, and we indicated that it is imperative that we have strong security around the grading process and ensure that faculty issue grades on time. We noted that the Audit Committee does not exist solely to identify problems, but also to try to identify good practices around the system that we can share for the benefit of all of our campuses. In that vein, we invited representatives from UW-La Crosse to present the highlights of their cash handling training and certification program. Vice Chancellor Bob Hetzel, Controller Sandy Chapman, and Internal Auditor Carol Kristnovich shared program objectives, the implementation process, plans for ongoing monitoring, and program outcomes to date, and we appreciate them coming to share their success with us. We discussed progress in connection with management responses. Again, we've recognized that it's not only important for us to complete the audits and have effective recommendations, but that those recommendations then in fact be implemented. We reviewed a summary of the progress that management has made toward resolving the comments and recommendations included in audit reports from the 2014 audit plan, and we reemphasized our focus on cybersecurity and reiterated our support to the Office of Internal Audit as they continue to monitor the development of data security policies, given the critical nature of this issue to the system as a whole. We also discussed progress on the fiscal 2016 audit plan. Ms. Storts briefly reviewed a document summarizing the state of audits that were approved as part of the fiscal 2016 audit plan. She expects the plan will be completed with the exception of the IT audits, which have been deferred as previously discussed. Ms. Storts also provided a report of the Chief Audit Executive, providing a brief update on the Waste, Fraud, and Abuse Hotline, noting that the process for handling reports is working well and that the number of reports received to date is below what was estimated at the time of implementation. There were no instances of fraud or theft, and no formal personnel actions were taken as a result of the incidents reported. Finally, Ms. Storts reported that the annual risk survey will go out next week to approximately 200 key leaders within the university system, with the intention that those survey results will be used to develop the fiscal 2017 audit plan. And I'd just like to close by thanking our internal audit team for their diligence and also thanking the management at our various campuses for their cooperation in the audit process and implementation of the recommended steps and actions.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the audit committee meeting? All right, hearing none.
Yesterday afternoon, we had a joint meeting of the Audit Committee and Business Finance Committee for the purpose of hearing from the Legislative Audit Bureau and having them discuss the independent auditor's report on the financial statements and other reporting required by government auditing standards. We welcomed representatives from the LIB, Carolyn Sittelberg, who was the audit director, and Aaron Charlau, the audit lead for our UW system audit. David Miller, Vice President of Administration, Julie Gordon, Interim VP of Finance, and Lori Storts, our Chief Audit Executive, were also present. Ms. Sittelberg reviewed the process followed by LIB to complete their annual financial audit of the UW system. They concluded their financial audit and issued an unmodified opinion on February 15, 2016. Our discussion focused essentially on three topics of significance. First, the audit outlined weaknesses in information technology security policies, procedures, and controls for several UW institutions. These weaknesses were considered a significant deficiency in internal control. We had a robust discussion with members of the Audit Committee and Business and Finance Committee seeking clarification on the LIB's findings, and we had good responses from the members of the UW system who were present. We expressed interest in receiving more detailed information regarding the audit findings, and Tom Stafford suggested that this could be accomplished potentially via a future closed session of the board. We also discussed some of the steps that have already been taken to address the IT concerns that were raised by the LIB. Ms. Charlau discussed the findings in the audit related to program revenue balances. The LIB recommendations included a more thorough review of institution reserves policies by UW System Administration, followed by a status report to the Legislative Audit Committee by July 29, 2016. Ms. Storts added that the Office of Internal Audit will issue its program revenue balances audit report prior to the June Audit Committee meeting. Finally, Ms. Sittelberg reviewed findings related to the management of the system's trust funds. LAB's recommendations focused on improving reporting to the board and regular monitoring of our external investment managers, and the members of the committee engaged in another robust discussion of how to address these concerns going forward. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments related to the joint meeting? All right, hearing none, thank you very much for the report. At this time, we are going to move on to something that always gives us a great deal of pleasure. We have at this time the opportunity to remind ourselves of the outstanding work being done by our academic staff across the UW system. There are more than 14,000 academic staff throughout the UW system, the university's largest sector of employees. This morning, we are honored to have with us some special guests, the recipients of the 2016 Regent Academic Staff Awards for Excellence. To lead us in our awards presentation, let me turn things over to Regent Jan Mueller, Chair of the Awards Selection Committee. Regent Mueller.
Thank you, Madam President. It's with great pleasure that we are here today to honor the winners of this year's Academic Staff Excellence Awards. With these awards, it's our opportunity as Regents to salute the hard work, dedication, and innovative thinking of our talented academic staff members. I confess this is one of my favorite assignments. Our academic staff are honored and we are able to acknowledge the institutions where they work and the programs that they develop and serve. They not only strengthen and innovate their individual UW institutions, but also the communities that they serve. Chairing this committee is fun, it's gratifying, but it's also challenging given the competition that exists for these awards. And I greatly appreciate the time and effort of my colleagues on the selection committee, and particularly want to thank Regent Mark Bradley, Regent Ed Menedides, and Regent Mark Tyler for their insight and their input. And with that introduction, I'll turn it over to Regent Mark Bradley to present our first award. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Mueller. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce this year's first award winner, who is Dr. Linnea Burke. Dr. Burke is the director of the Psychology Research and Training Clinic at UW-Madison's Department of Psychology. Since 2009, she has worked diligently to enhance its educational and outreach capacity. This is a well-functioning mental health clinic. It's critical to the strength and national standing of a clinical psychology PhD program, and UW-Madison's program is ranked as one of the best in the country. And one test of that statement is that the clinic students have attained top internship placements throughout the country. As director of the clinic, Linnea manages staff, she supports clients, trains graduate students, and maintains all aspects of the infrastructure of this community-oriented mental health clinic. She's at the forefront of new clinical projects that support students, campus researchers, and the community at large. And here are some examples. She developed a vertical training concept in which senior level students have the opportunity to informally supervise junior level students in group case discussion. She collaborated with a middle school program to provide group therapy to at-risk students. She developed continuing education workshops to meet an important outreach service to area psychologists. She collaborated in developing low-cost group mindfulness therapy, a low-cost alcohol evaluation and intervention program, and a clinical interview service for UW researchers. Through supervised practicum opportunities, students trained by Linnea provide free services to agencies, including Madison and Milwaukee hospitals, as well as community mental health centers that serve low-income areas. The clinic employs a sliding scale fee that places services within reach of community members regardless of their income level. And the fiscal health of this self-sustaining clinic is at an all-time high through her efforts. Her efforts including to secure outside service contracts to create a more predictable source of income. Linnea maintains an active role in student mentoring committees, national program accreditation, curriculum development, and research involvement. Her department chair had this to say about her. Dr. Burke is truly an outstanding clinic director, the best I've ever seen. The training program for our clinical PhD program has been completely revamped and revitalized with a more contemporary curriculum. For many trainees, she is probably the most influential mentor whom they encounter at UW. Quite wonderful praise. So I'm honored to present our first Academic Staff Excellence Award to Dr. Linnea Burke of UW-Madison.
Hi. Well, thank you very much. I was thinking this morning that I can pretty easily teach a 3-hour graduate neuropsychology course, but when thinking about what am I going to say to you all, was a little bit at a loss for words. When my chair put forth my nomination, I felt honored at that time. And then when my home campus chose me as their nominee, that also felt like winning an award. But when I actually got the letter stating that I had won the award, that was really exciting. The letter said I should say something about what I considered important for success as an academic staff member, and for myself personally, I think it's been persistence and flexibility in that in my role, I am held accountable to a number of different individuals and groups who all have their own ideas about what I should be doing and what the clinic should be doing. And then that persistence and flexibility has been guided by a strong commitment to what I consider to be the real mission of the clinic, which is graduate training and then service to the community. So thank you very much.
Morning. The second individual award winner today is Michael Martin from the University of Wisconsin River Falls, who holds the position of Senior Advisor and Administrative Specialist in the College of Education and Professional Studies. Mr. Martin helps the teachers who, as we all know, are the foundation of everything that we do in this system. Listen to what he does. Michael joined UW River Falls in 1997 as an advisor and now wears many hats. He advises more than 300 elementary education majors in addition to many more in an unofficial capacity. In his role as the university's teacher certification officer, he handles documentation for about 500 educator licenses annually. In addition to that, he receives inquiries from currently licensed teachers who are interested in adding fields of licensing, and he serves as a very effective recruiter for the school. 4 years ago, Michael initiated a living learning community called Teach for incoming freshmen. The program is popular and continues to draw interest from about twice as many students as it can accommodate. In addition to teaching an Introduction to Teaching course associated with the Teach program, he regularly spends time with students, both in the residence hall and while taking them on field trips. This guy goes above and beyond the call of duty. The retention rate of program participants is significantly higher than the university average. What's more, participating students have a higher grade point average than peers not in the program. Michael developed a first-year seminar class for elementary education majors that he teaches. He has authored advertising materials for students in the education preparation program, such as degree planning, worksheets, handbooks, and licensing exam resources. He chairs the admission to the Educator Preparation Program Committee and serves as UW System and Academic Staff Representative. He is active in both the Wisconsin Academic Advertising Association and the National Academic Advertising Association. Excuse me, that should be advising, not advertising. Michael regularly works with faculty members to mentor, prepare, and support candidates for teaching positions in the K-12 system so that schools are highly prepared teaching professionals. According to the chair of Teach, quote, "So recognizable is his expertise. We often get inquiries from people at other universities, from students near and far, including a long line of alums and future prospects. So tireless are his efforts, his office is almost always occupied by someone receiving hallmark above and beyond personal attention," unquote. I'm honored to present our second Academic Excellence Award to Michael Martin from the University of Wisconsin, River Falls.
So nervous I almost dropped the plaque, which would have been not the best way to start this. I was asked to prepare some brief comments regarding this, and for those who know me, brief is not one of my areas of expertise. I want to thank sincerely Dean Larry Solberg, the Dean of the College of Education and Professional Studies, who nominated me for this award. I've been able to work with Larry for the last 5 years, and through Larry, I've truly learned the meaning of how to use and implement service leadership, or servant leadership. Larry's presence in the college has been a moving force to move us towards new programs and new opportunities. I also like to thank my esteemed colleagues at the University of Wisconsin River Falls, the several faculty, staff, students, advisors. Without any of them, I could not do what I do. I also wish to thank my colleagues in the College of Education and Professional Studies. Oftentimes, they are patient with me as I stop by offices and informal visits and say, "Do you have a minute?" Which oftentimes turns into very long discussions of opportunities and concerns I have for the students I represent. Finally, I'd like to thank my wife, Rory, who's here today. I can't tell you the countless hours she spends helping me when I come home and go, so Rory, I have this idea and I need like 300 door decks in 2 days. And she'll look at me and be like, okay, we can do this, and assist me with all parts and aspects of my job, from helping shuttle students to cooking meals when we host students at our home. Finally, the 3 inspirations in my life, my 3 daughters, Kennedy, McKenna, and Kaylee. Without the 3-pack, they teach me daily to stop, smile, not take myself so seriously, and to appreciate the small things in life. I was asked to say a few words about what makes a successful recipient of this kind of an honor. And to be quite honest, I kind of shrugged my shoulders. I'm like, I really don't know. I love my job, I love what I do, and I love working with my students. So I've reflected a little bit. And what I came up with is kind of what I do in the way I look at things when it comes to students. First off, when we think of the students we serve, we always have to remember they are all unique. They have their own stories, and it is our responsibility to listen and to learn their stories. They have goals, dreams, and desires. They have faults and frailties, as we all do. And it's important to help them and challenge them as they start to grow and learn and develop to overcome those adversities and those faults and frailties that plague us all. They should be treated with respect and compassion, even when having a difficult conversation or addressing a difficult situation. We always should treat them with respect and compassion in all we do. Students are not statistics. They are not numbers on a spreadsheet to me. They have names, they have stories, they have dreams. And I never forget that with each student I interact with. Nobody starts college planning to struggle. Nobody starts college planning to experience setbacks, personal loss, or tragedy. Nobody starts college saying, I'm not going to finish this. Nobody begins college intending to fail. We always need to remember, while these things are pitfalls for our students, this was not their plan. And my role, I felt, and what's guided me through my career, is helping them to find that voice and that plan again. Finally, my students kind of laugh about this because as nervous and shaky as I'm up here, I'm usually the one that they're like, okay, Mike, gotta go, got classes, thanks for the advice. And I find myself sometimes up here when I was asked to give advice, I'm a little bit of an advisor without advice for other people. But one of the things I keep in my office that they always giggle about is on my wall I have an old, from a friend of mine, demotivators poster. And if anyone's ever seen the demotivators posters, they're kind of humorous. It's a poster with a tornado on it, and it simply quotes, change. When the winds of change blow hard enough, the most trivial of things can turn into deadly projectiles. While this gets a few giggles time to time from my students and colleagues, I use it to serve myself as a reminder not to dismiss or disregard what seems inconsequential or unimportant. Change is a natural part of life. However, it also causes disruption, anxiety, and fear. When someone makes a life decision to begin or to continue their collegiate career, it represents a change in their life. Never underestimate what may seem trivial to us, oftentimes can be a major area of concern for them. Every day we have the opportunity to impact our students' lives. In the classroom, in the union, every time we have an opportunity to connect with a student, we help them even more move closer to their dreams. Again, thank you, Regents, President Cross, students, faculty, and distinguished guests for this honor.
I'd like to add a personal comment following up on Regent Mueller's, that this is one of my favorite things because it really gives us a window to look at a lot of things we don't get an opportunity as Regents to see, and that's the great work of faculty and staff, and really, you know, keeps us tied to the mission. So this is really good stuff, and we thank the people that make the nominations and put the work into it, and also thank all those that are nominated that aren't selected. So in addition to the individual winners of these awards, each year we also recognize an outstanding program whose success is exemplary. This year's winner for a program is UW Green Bay's David A. Coffrin Library. Under the leadership of Director Paula Ganyard, the Coffrin Library serves as a central part of the academic and student life at UW Green Bay. It is physically located in the center of the campus, and as you'll hear, it has really grown to be the symbolic center of the campus as well. The library and its staff have worked hard to create successful partnerships within the university departments, including adult degree, student life, focus, Future Phoenix, and many more. The results have been innovative and user-friendly services to better meet the needs of students. One example of this is an informal open house called Bash in the Stacks, designed to connect students and campus community with the wealth of resources that are available in the library. The event has become a campus tradition, attracting more than 700 students last fall. Using a marketing plan created by an intern, the Coffrin Library adopted the tagline, "Your Guide to Answers." The marketing efforts have paid off with higher gate counts, increases in interlibrary loan usage, and an increase in reference interactions. In its quest to meet teaching, research, and scholarship needs of faculty, the library hosts a biannual UW Green Bay author and artist event. The most recent event recognized more than 50 faculty and staff and featured 150 publications and art installations. The library also partners with the wider Green Bay community and serves as a regional host for the National History Day competition, one of the largest competitions in the state, averaging more than 400 local high school students each year. The Coffrin Library secured a generous donation to start the Robert L. Ganyard Library Endowment, which tripled in its first year and will allow the library to have available funds for future projects that aren't funded by the state dollars. As a tribute to the effort of the library the library and its staff, a faculty member commented that the Coffrin Library is a real presence on the campus now. Director Paula Lanyard observed in the nomination materials that statements like this one are a testament that the library is not just the physical center of the university, but its heart. In 2012, the Coffrin Library was selected by the Wisconsin Libraries Association Wisconsin Library of the Year. We're happy to add to the library's accolades, and it's with great pride that I present this year's Academic Staff Excellence Award to the David A. Coffrin Library at UW Green Bay, represented today by Director Paula Ganyard and about 15 members of library staff.
Regent Milner, President Cross, Regent Mueller, and the Award Selection Committee, thank you. I was thrilled to hear that we had been selected for this award because it recognizes the hard work and dedication of an excellent library staff, many of whom are with me here today. So I ask if they would please stand up from over there and get your due. This is one of the most dedicated group of individuals with whom I have ever worked. Each day, they do their best to make the Coffrin Library an indispensable resource and a place of choice for our students and faculty of UW Green Bay. They continue to find innovative new solutions and services no matter what the obstacles that are put in front of them. I could not be prouder of this amazing team. A special thank you to all the students who currently work for us and who have worked for us. Each and every one of you has made a difference and an impact on this library, and we could not accomplish the things we do without you. You are part of our team, so thank you. I'd also like to thank the UW Green Bay Academic Staff Committee, Provost Davis, and Chancellor Miller for putting the Coffran Library nomination forward. And if you'll allow me, I'd like to wish a very happy birthday to my mother, who's watching online. I was also asked to make brief remarks on what it takes to be an outstanding academic staff program. I gave this a lot of thought, and I've come up with 3 things that rose to the top. First, it takes hiring bright and talented people who have a passion for what they do, giving those individuals clear understanding of their responsibilities, giving them the necessary authority it takes to meet those responsibilities, understanding the obstacles they face and help remove those obstacles when possible, and then simply get out of their way. Trust that you've hired bright and talented people and they won't disappoint. Second, it takes teamwork and collaboration. It's important to understand that your little piece of the puzzle matters in the big picture. No matter if your job is selecting a book, putting that book on the shelf, or help someone doing research, all of it matters, and it only works because we're all part of the team. I don't just mean teamwork and collaboration within the library, I also mean collaboration across the university. Events like our Bash in the Stacks that were previously mentioned only happens because of the collaboration with Student Life in Focus. Collaboration with local schools is necessary for the success of programs like our National History Day regional competition. It takes collaboration across the UW system to build a world-class library collection. Without collaboration, we, the Coffran Library, would not be able to do what we do. In particular, if it was not for the collaboration of the UW system libraries, UW Green Bay would only be able to afford a small percentage of the collection we offer. I strongly believe that the UW libraries are the shining example in the UW system of how collaboration can save millions of dollars, work well year in and year out to the benefit of all. And this is why it's critical, especially to those of us here at UW Green Bay, that we do whatever we can to protect, encourage, and grow this collaboration. Finally, and most importantly, it takes a shared vision to be an outstanding program. Our shared vision is to support the teaching, learning, and research of our students, faculty, and community. We accomplish this shared vision by providing the access to resources and the access to expertise of librarians who can help people with the information needs. It seems fitting that we accept this award just as National Library Week is about to get underway this Sunday. This year's National Library Week slogan is Libraries Transform. Libraries help people transform by providing people with access to information that they transform into knowledge, which is further transformed into innovative and creative solutions to address the multifaceted problems facing today's world. When UW Green Bay was founded 50 years ago, Chancellor Widener specifically put the library at the center of the campus because he believed that the library is the heart of the academic institution. We do our very best to live up to that vision every day. On behalf of these talented individuals with me today and those back in the library keeping things running, I thank you for recognizing their outstanding work with this honor.
Let me add my congratulations and the congratulations of all of the regents around the table to our award winners. The work you do is impressive and inspiring, and we thank you for making the contribution that you do to your campuses, to the students, and to the UW system. Now, before we proceed with our next agenda item, we're going to we have the luxury of taking a brief recess, about 10 minutes while we get things in position, and we'll meet you back here in about 10 minutes. So thank you very much. Thank you for the break, and we're all settled now. We've invited our newly appointed and approved regents to the table so they can have an opportunity to listen to you too, because they're going to be doing the heavy lifting over the next 2 to 7 years, depending upon where they are. All right, this morning we are joined by students from different institutions throughout the UW system. to be part of our panel discussion about campus climate with specific attention to the diversity-related issues. First, I want to thank each of the students that are here for taking time to travel to this meeting. We're here with the Board of Regents here in UW Green Bay, and we know that you juggle a lot of demands, particularly at this time of year. I imagine you're getting ready for finals at this point, and there's a variety of things you're dealing with. So we very much thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and join us here. Holding this conversation with students from campuses provides the Board of Regents with a perspective that few of us have and helps us to shape system policies that support student achievement. It's very important for us to hear about the lives and experiences lived by the students of color on our UW campuses. We ask that you share with us specific examples of both your positive experiences as well as the instances where you believe you've experienced negative treatment because of your racial or ethnic status or because of your sexual orientation. Our challenge and opportunity now and in the future is to convert what we learn through these interactions into constructive changes and transformations that will help enable each of our campuses to adopt practices that have a positive impact on campus culture and climate. Again, thank you for your persistence and courage in helping us improve the educational experience for all of our students, and particularly for our students of color who have faced different challenges in the years at the UW institutions. Let me first review a bit about the steps we're taking here before we open the floor to the students. Campus efforts to engage students in conversation are and have been ongoing. Today, the students joining us are taking up on an invite through the Chancellor's Office, working with student government through shared governance to identify students familiar with recent campus-sponsored events related to campus climate. Now, you represent some of the first campuses to have done this. We realize that there are other campuses, and we really want you to understand, everyone to understand, that this is a first step. Actually, it's not a first step. We've been taking steps all the way along. This is a benchmark step. To prepare for this panel, we asked students to share their insights on those recent campus-sponsored events, to consider their personal perspective on their campus climate, and to consider what offices, support system, or programs on campus they have found to be effective or helpful. Later today, we look forward to continuing our conversation at a special luncheon we have organized with our panel and additional invited students. We will also have an announcement later today. We are also pleased to welcome Selena Deer, who is a freshman here at UW Green Bay, who will share with us a poetry reading at the culmination of the panel discussion. So with that, we're going to welcome our student guests, and let me ask that the Regents consider holding any questions or comments until we've heard from everyone who's joining us today. We have students on the panel from UW Green Bay, UW-Madison, UW-Parkside, UW-Stout, and UW-Whitewater. Unfortunately, a schedule complication has complicated the arrival of a student from UW-La Crosse. We're going to start with UW Green Bay since you are our host campus, and I would ask that each one of you begin by giving your name and telling us what your hometown is. I always do this whenever I meet students because it kind of helps all of us understand and be familiar with you a little better. We want to know your major or your career objective, and we'd like to know what your year in school is. That all helps us better understand you. So let's start with our student from UW Green Bay. Welcome.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here today. My name's Asti Martin. I am a senior here at UW Green Bay. My major is Democracy and Justice Studies, and I'm minoring in Political Science and Public Administration. I'm from Racine, Wisconsin originally. Yeah, I'm honored to be here. I am sitting on the Chancellor's Inclusive Excellence Committee this semester as the Chancellor's Inclusive Excellence Intern, and we are working on a few issues that deal with diversity, not only with multicultural students, but also LGBTQ plus students, as well as students with disabilities. We are also working on things in our multicultural offices, such as race panels and discussions on like Black Lives Matter movements, and we're having successful turnouts from those, and we've seen a lot of faculty members and staff members come to those, and we're also trying to get more faculty and staff educated on those issues, and it would really be helpful if we had more faculty and staff that actually represented us in our university.
Do you want to share with us a little bit about some of your experiences?
Yes. It's very difficult being here sometimes because I'm from such a diverse area. Being the only student of color sometimes is difficult in finding resources, such as in our community, resources of where to get like hair done, where you can get food, things like that. Some of those things are very difficult. Also, being judged and stereotyped, because I've had people tell me they were like I was the first Black person that they've met and that they've actually talked to, and they've come from hometowns with one Black family, so there was a lot of stereotypes that we're trying to clear up, and being targeted by campus police for just because of the color of my skin. So some of those things impact your education as well, kind of makes you feel bad and not want to continue at the university, but having supportive staff and friends to be there to help you and talk you through that can really help, especially if they're staff members and faculty and friends that represent you, because they've been through some of the same things. I was talking to some of the other panelists about some of their experiences on their campuses as well, and they've been through some of the same issues that I've been through, just being targeted in class, about racial issues, all of that stuff, it comes into play and really impacts your education.
Thank you, Asti. All right, Miriam Coker is from UW-Madison. Miriam.
Hello, my name is Miriam. I am from Prince George's County, Maryland, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C. I double major in social welfare and English creative writing, and I'm a sophomore. So this year, first I want to say thank you for allowing me to sit on this panel. This is truly an honor. Yeah, so this year I was given the honor to be the Equity and Inclusion Committee Chair of ASM. So that basically means that I'm in charge of basically all things related to diversity and inclusion when it comes to student life. So you can kind of imagine how much pressure that is, because usually it's people just like, oh, hate and bias, something happened. Okay, Miriam's your job. So that's been quite fun. So that has a blessing and a burden, because it's a blessing because I hear so many people's stories, and that I am able to like direct them to places and like provide them resources, like people to talk to, but also it's a burden because I am literally in the middle of everything that happens. And if you own a TV or read the newspaper or on a computer, you could probably imagine the types of things that happen on UW. And I'm here to share my story and other people's stories. So just some things that has happened. The truth is that my mentee was spit in the face by someone who lives on her floor because she is Black. The truth is that for over a month when I was walking home, someone yelled "Ayo ISIS" at me every day, and so much so that now I have to take the long way home. The truth is that it costs $6 to get a package of strawberries, and that's ridiculously expensive. And the truth is that someone thought it was funny to post up pictures of Hitler and swastikas on a Jewish person's floor, and that person is still living on the same floor. The truth is there's just so many truths, and there's just so many like bad things happening, and I could list them from this list that I have, but the issue is that we are not seeing people's humanity, and that's why these things are happening, and that these occurrences are not seen as issues, and they're not being taken as priority, and that's why they're not being fixed. Because if they were priority, they will be fixed. And they should be priority because this affects everyone. Like, we are, like, by letting these things happen, we are brooding like a campus climate of like intolerance and hate and racism and misogyny, and that should not be okay. just simply. And like, even though that like these issues directly impact marginalized students, like these should be like, even though these issues directly impact marginalized students, it indirectly impacts all of campus, because it's just telling marginalized students like, hey, you don't belong here, even though that I have applied and gotten scholarships because I get good grades and I do well. And same thing with other people who identify as marginalized students and in scholarship programs and do well in school. So just solutions that I have that I hope this like could be something, because like what's happening at UW-Madison is not isolated to UW-Madison. It's very reflective of all UW schools and predominantly white institutions in general. So one solution is mandatory diversity trainings for all students and staff. Students of color should not be the ones to teach in class why they are important, and to more substantial ethnic studies requirement. Also having more therapists and therapists of color or culturally competent therapists, because at least for UW-Madison, the #1 victim of mental health issues and depression are women, more specifically women of color, more specifically trans women of color. So that is not okay. And another solution is more affordable housing. So in UW, we have homeless students, and not only are they not recognized, instead of more affordable housing being built, they're being torn down and replaced by high rises where the rent starts at $900 a month. And not only that, groceries on campus are ridiculously expensive. To me, it is ridiculous to spend $6 for a package of strawberries. Like, I don't know, like, that's just me. But yeah, and also there needs to be zero tolerance policies for offenders of hate and sexual assault crimes. Most of the sexual assault crimes that happen on UW campus happened on Langdon Street. Langdon Street, and that is about 25 houses, 25 frat houses to be specific. And basically frat houses on our campus are untouchable because they have so much money and they have so much like alumni network, to the point where young women are scared to walk on that street at night because they know that they might get touched or yelled at. And that is, students should not live with the constant fear of their safety, and that's just the basis. And yeah.
Do you want to share with us, I understand you had a campus meeting with about 400 students recently. Share a little bit about, about how that, not only about the results, because many of the results are things that you've already talked about, but is by way of a template. That was an effective meeting. How was it organized? And give us a little bit of background about who came and how it was organized. And are there existing departments at Madison right now that you've found effective for you?
Yes. So I'm assuming that you're referring to the Moving Forward event, probably?
Yeah,
okay,
the Moving Forward event.
Yeah, so that event was quite successful, I would say. Over 400 students showed up, and the way that it was organized was that there were, I want to believe, maybe 30 tables with about 5 different topics. The topics ranging from things like hate and bias, retention and recruitment of faculty of color, mental health services. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but like, so what would happen is that there was a facilitator at each table, and then anyone else could join a table, and then the facilitator leads the conversation, take notes, and we talked about like, okay, what is the issue? How do we fix the issue? Like, what does the fixing the issue look like? Stuff like that. And at the end, there was a panel it was a panel including me, another student leader, the chancellor, the vice provost, and the chief of diversity, and the dean of students, and we answered questions from students and faculty, because it was an open event to campus, which is a really good idea, because like usually, like at least at UW, the city of Madison is very infused, or is affected by the campus itself. So it was open to not only campus members but community members. Yeah, and the people who were there, it was all types of people from campus, but the unfortunate thing is that the people who needed to be there weren't there, because usually when these events happen, it's the same people who want to make change happen, the same people who are marginalized and like are tired of being seen as marginalized and all those things. So yeah, I'm not sure if I hit all
you
the
did.
questions.
Thank
Okay.
you. Miriam, thank you very much. And I want to compliment you too. I know you're involved with spoken word, and that's it's a production, poetry-oriented production, and it does some really interesting things. And Amber Danius comes from UW Parkside. And Amber, would you please introduce yourself for us?
Sure. Thank you. I'm honored to be here today. My name is Amber Danius. I'm a junior at the University of Wisconsin Parkside. I am a part of Zeta Sigma Chi Multicultural Sorority Incorporated. I am a communication major. So today I kind of want to just touch on a little briefly about my story. But I feel as though my story does not reflect everyone else's story around me. I haven't had as many racial slurs as Miriam here, and I feel as though like it's easy for us all to empathize for her, but we can't sympathize until we really deeply understand and can connect with that emotion. And I feel like conversations like this are a great start to help things like that we have like this, like deeper issues. But I feel like what's really going to help is the dialect that you have, that you're not sitting in front of a camera and you don't have a microphone in front of you and you're not uncomfortable. I feel like when you're
Which we'll have at lunch.
We'll have at lunch. I mean, this is like an honor. I think it's a great thing, like that we can explain like this is what's happening on our campus. But I think that the deeper root is that we need to discuss these things in a setting where we feel comfortable to say things that are uncomfortable, to have uncomfortable conversation. I think that we don't have the opportunity to do that as much as we would like to with people that are higher ups or big wigs, if you will. It's easier to communicate amongst each other, and that's where the frustration comes, I think, most of the time, is that we are talking, this is what we want, this is what we need to see, but we don't have the power to do these things. And so meetings like this is where it's like, I'm honored to be able to share a little bit about my campus. So I'll talk a little bit about Parkside. I love my campus. We are a very diverse school. We have an office, it's called OMSA, it's short for Office of Multicultural Student Affairs, where everyone is welcome to come, obviously. Where you can come, feel comfortable, talk, discuss, have little discussions, things like this. So we have that, but something that's really had a great impact on me lately, I didn't even know it would, is one of the classes, the courses I'm enrolled in. It's called Power and Privilege. And there we don't learn so much out of textbooks. It's all of the conversations that we have. It's about discussion. And I think that even being in the class for as many weeks as we've been in, I've seen so much change in people, not like in the classroom entirely. Everyone's comfortable. We have white people, we have Hispanic people, we have black people, we have people from everywhere, and we're all being able to relate to one another. And it's not always good conversation. It's not supposed to be, but that's really what has changed everyone's perspectives. And that's another thing, perspectives. I believe personally that listening to other people's perspectives and trying your hardest to sympathize and understand where they're coming from is what's going to make the change that we want to see. Being able to sit down and just try to really understand, want to understand, is what's going to make the difference. So that would be my recommendation of improvement.
Thank you. What have you found at Parkside that is, you talked a little bit about some of the resources. What are some of the other things at Parkside that you think are effective? And if I'm putting you on a spot,
No,
that's
that's
all right.
okay. But really, I think what comes to mind is my power and privilege class. We discuss a lot of issues that are happening today that, like, I mean, I don't want to say that nothing happens at Parkside. Personally, I haven't had too many bad experiences, but that's only my story, and one story is not going to reflect everyone, you know what I mean? So being able to hear different stories and, like, try to understand, like I was saying, you get the opportunity to do that in that class and hear different perspectives. So if anything, I would say Power and Privilege, that course is immensely helpful, I suppose. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Amber. Anthony. Anthony is from UW Stout. Anthony.
Hello. Yes, my name is Anthony Hoffman. I am a non-traditional junior at University of Wisconsin-Stout. I'm from Menominee originally, and I'm studying applied social science with a history and politics concentration and with minors in GIS and computer science. My role in the University of Wisconsin-Stout is the Director of Diversity for the SSA, the student government, and I've been involved with a lot of shared governance regarding diversity issues on campus. Over the past few years at University of Wisconsin-Stout, like many other campuses, there have been many overt hate and bias incidents. The campus has taken many steps to address these. There's been, especially this year, there was a couple incidents, including one blackface incident, which was perpetrated at Halloween. The university sent out several letters. The student government created a statement, and we got pushback on both of those from students claiming that they didn't think it was offensive. That, to me, shows a complete lack of empathy and education on the part of many of my peers and fellow students, including some outside of the university in the community. The university has taken steps, student government has taken steps to combat these. There is a petition started by students, including one compatriot who is currently in the audience, to have a administrative position created to address diversity. Stout currently does not have a chief diversity officer like many other University of Wisconsin schools do. We were told that it is not feasible due to the current budget situation. Whether or not that's true, it does show that in this current budget situation, if diversity is not a priority, then it is pushed to the side and not given the resources necessary. Stout does have good resources like the Multicultural Student Services Center. Our LGBTQIA Center is highly nationally regarded, but without a lot of administrative support, we as students feel it's lacking. To the university's credit, after lodging that petition, there's been a lot of dialogue between the chancellor, the provost, the dean of students, and students. We've had several meetings regarding improvements and what can be done to improve the climate on campus. I personally feel those meetings have been effective first steps, and other steps have been taken to improve that. As a student government, we are looking at instituting mandatory diversity training for officers of student organizations, trying to get parties who do not come to the table, like Miriam said, to be forced to have diversity training and have that education that they are missing. Along with that, other educational events from the university are being planned to help students recognize and learn from hate and bias incidents and prevent them from happening in the future.
Thank you, Anthony. Stout had a meeting recently. Would you want to share a little bit about that?
There was a hate and bias incident that occurred in our student library. Is this what you're referring to?
Yeah. And you had a meeting over it.
Yes. Someone had defaced a poster of a black student in our library and wrote a racial slur on it. There was a meeting on campus afterwards, a discussion between several campus administrators and concerned students, where students were encouraged to air grievances, feelings, emotions about that. I felt it was a productive discussion, and I felt it was beneficial for the students who attended. However, that is only part of the piece, because the people who weren't there are people who perpetrated and people who don't think that's wrong. So reaching those students, be it through educational classes, on-campus events, and making sure it's a forefront of an issue being communicated through university communications, I think is a very valuable way to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, to our last formal panelist, Natalie, and it's Arriaga?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, it
Natalie
is.
Arriaga is from UW-Whitewater. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your experiences?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Natalie Arriaga. I'm from UW-Whitewater, as stated. My major is international studies with an emphasis in public diplomacy, and I'm a junior, as well as pursuing a diversity leadership certificate and minor in Spanish. I think accentuating the minor is particularly important for me. My hometown is in Janesville, Wisconsin, in which I grew up from since middle school. So I'll talk a little bit about the experiences that students themselves have been encountering at our university. A lot was initiated by classroom experiences, as in regards to representing their ethnicity, their race, by only one person. Faculty and staff call on one particular person when it comes to, okay, show me who you are. LGBTQ community, oh, I'm going to pick on you. Not more so pick, but I'm going to select you to represent African Americans, Latinos, whether you're from the Middle East. They pick one student. And it's not all professors, but there has been instances such as these. As well as on social media, they target individuals in which they feel as minorities or minority communities are complaining rather than action. This is all on them. They cause these things rather than not an outside source, an outside entity. It's all about us. And as well as black faces in which Caucasian students put on Snapchat in regards to they paint black on their face, and it's not a racial slur. It's not seen as a negative impact on students, but it really is. Sometimes we consider the fact that these aren't at all derogatory, but at times they are. As well as making fun of your language. I've spoken Spanish a couple times at a university center, and there's times in which you get mimicked in regards to they speak gibberish after you, like, what were you talking about? Da, 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 da. So it's more so like a disrespect to your own language, and that's not only Spanish, it's to all ethnicities. As well as international students, they find themselves, especially with the news that's going on around now, they're as well targeted at the university, because thankfully we have a great majority of international students coming to UW-Whitewater. And I also feel as though we need to kind of emphasize the fact of cultural competency, as well as training, as well how my peers said. It's important to do cultural competence training. We have great faculty and staff at our university and resources around the United States in which we can gather scholarly resources. The also bearing item on students is the culture tax. In which you, as a student of minority, are asked to represent in several organizations and several committees. So there's usually one person doing multiple tasks. So if this person is doing on this committee, asked to go to this meeting, asked to go see the chancellor all in 1 week, they also have their academics in which they need to pertain to. They also want a social life. They also need to go back home and see their families so they can get rejuvenated and come back to this university, because we are here for one thing. We are here to achieve an education. And as college students, we feel as though we are not college students. We are still back in high school. We are still enclosed into our one mindset. There's been initiatives like Boxes and Walls from university housing, in which is an oppressional experience for other students, in which they go room to room. How is it like to be an African American, a Latino, a person in the LGBT community, as well as disability community? But students get offended in those, in which sometimes they're not portrayed in the most positive light, and they may have negative experiences as well in those. And in order to combat all those experiences, our university has taken upon itself to create the Campus Culture Working Group, and that produced the Campus Action Forum, in which approximately 450 students, faculty, and staff attended one big event, sat down, and conversed about the things that are going wrong around campus, what we need to fix, and it allowed students to voice their opinions. And from that, we produced 4 subgroups, which is diversity learning, community, accountability and consequences, capturing the student experiences, in which I form a part of one of these subgroups. But at the same time, like as much as I form one, we have to collaborate and build upon each other, and not only work for the betterment of our institution, but also for ourselves. We have learned that we need to empower students so they can also go out into the workforce, so the day when they graduate, they're a cultural competent individual, in which they will be able to be successful within their business or within their professional field. Because the world of today is only getting more diverse and more diverse. And many individuals don't realize that, coming from a hometown that may have not had a diverse community. So this is mainly upon faculty, staff, and administration, but as well as students. Us students need to self-advocate for ourselves, and even amongst each other, because our student organization collaboration has been improving. Black Student Union, Latinos Unidos, International Student Association, many organizations have brought it upon themselves to educate each other, and more so not always look up to administration, but hope that these, our experiences will help create a change. So, thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you. Now, before we open it up for questions, and remember that we have a listening luncheon to do. I'd like to invite Selena Deer, and while she's sipping her water, Anthony, would you help, please? Selena is going to read a poem for us. She is a freelance spoken word. There is not a spoken word club here at UW Green Bay, but she is freelance for that, and she typically likes to do this standing up. So if you would help her, please. No, that isn't on. It will be right here. It'll be right here. Would you help her, please? Thank you. I don't know how it is. Oh, Anthony, could you hold it for her? Could you hold? He can hold it for you. Are you sure? Yes, and you can, and he'll do it. All right, thank you, Selena. And let me introduce Selena. Selena is a freshman here at UW Green Bay. Her major is communications and theater with a minor in political science. Her hometown is New Berlin, Wisconsin. So please, Selena.
Hello, my name is Selena Deer. Again, I'm a freshman at UWGB. I'm part of several multicultural orgs and student government orgs as well here on campus. I'm here today to speak for just a few of the underrepresented voices of this campus and of other campuses. And today I would like to share a spoken word poem with you. On renewing my driver's license, post Ancestry.com. 52% white and 48% black. There is a fill-in-the-blank section for race instead of a box labeled other for me to check, which surprises me. What should I say that I am, black or white? I laugh as I think of the officer's face when they pull me over and see my ID. I swear, officer, I'm 52% white. Just ask Ancestry.com somehow. I know that situation is funnier in my head than it would be in reality. In reality, I know that southern cells bear a strange fruit. I write down mixed, but it doesn't register in their system. I say I am biracial. Though I dislike being called two of something when I am one person, in disbelief that in 2016 these are not options even though our president is mixed, I think, why ask me how I identify if you're just going to tell me what my race is anyway? I tell him I am black. My words sound like a lie, feeling as though I'm betraying a part of myself, but today I am black for my country's convenience, even though black and brown and yellow have never been convenient. I take note of the irony, realizing that no matter what I write, they will just use it against me. I find myself resenting my country that doesn't even recognize my race, a country that can only identify me as 48% of what they see, a country that is so diverse. Its first language is American English, its second is racism, and the third is Spanish. Sometimes Spanish-speaking Americans are actually treated like U.S. citizens, as in sometimes speaking Spanish is okay if your complexion is gringo enough to pass as bilingual, as in mostly my race usually does the talking for me, as in mostly I'm just a young female minority that should calm down and know her place before authority, as in mostly my mouth is just an inconvenience that God put on my face by accident, kind of how slavery was accidental. College student says to me, black people could have been the ones who owned white people. You know? I think, no, I don't know that, because that is a world I have never lived in. White male college student clarifies that everyone originally is from Africa, so aren't we all black? So couldn't he call himself black? He asked me why it matters I have to put black on my ID card. The words passing his privileged lips. I clear my voice. I attempt to speak louder than my skin, loud enough to resonate through his ears that have chosen ignorance instead of enlightenment. I explain to him that I am black and white. From my Irish and Sicilian immigrant blood to my Jamaican sugarcane slave blood, I tell him that my outside layer of dead skin is a testimony from my ancestors worn by my people in remembrance. How the existence of my skin is the closest thing they will receive to a reparation. I tell him about apartheid South Africa, how it was the law to have your ID cards on you at all times because privilege is broken down by how close of a shade you were to white. I tell him of people in the Philippines that spend millions to bleach their skin so they look better. I explain how mothers in India tell their children to carry umbrellas on sunny days so their skin stays light because the darker your skin is, the less desirable you are. How some people are so colorblind they don't even see racism, that his white skin shields him from more than just the sun. I explain because my skin has always needed an explanation. How under my layers of skin I find oppression. Maybe that's why black people get ashy all the time. Maybe you're constantly trying to shut off our layers of oppression. Maybe we use lotion in attempts to heal our skin in order to resurrect our dead ancestors. So, to answer your question, yes, my race matters. The questions he should have asked are, what's the point of me having a driver's license if I won't live long enough to pull it out? Why does my ID need to be bilingual if my skin is the only language the officer speaks? Does it matter what I put on my ID card? If the officer's just going to use their eyes as ears anyway, if my skin screams guilty before I can say that I am not, does my ID matter? Can you even hear what I am saying right now? Or am I speaking a different language?
And now, I'd like to open it up for questions from the board. And we're going to limit our questions to a few because we have a luncheon afterward. We have a listening lunch afterwards, and so we'll be able to deal with some of the questions then. Jose.
First of all, let me start by thanking Region President Milner and Region Vice President Bailey for really encouraging, facilitating, and really allowing this panel presentation and the luncheon to happen. I think it takes a tremendous courage to do this, and I want to thank you. I think it is very noble of you to do this. I have a rhetorical question as I was developing, as I was listening here, and so there is a question. But the question is really directed more towards all of us that are listening and not as much to the panelists. And it's two questions. One is, what did we really hear? And the second one is, what did we see here? And since I asked the question as a rhetorical to you, I think I have the right and the privilege to answer my own question. And what I heard, and I think all of us, we heard and we saw based on our own personal life experiences that we bring here today, what I heard was this: it's not about me, it's not about what I want on a personal, selfish basis. It's about we need to receive a quality education. And it is about we need to see more students of color, more students graduate. And it's not about us, but it's about the state of Wisconsin, and it's about our communities. As we receive the quality education and as we graduate in greater numbers, our state and our communities will be strengthened and will grow. That's what I heard. What I also saw here is this. I did not see individuals that are weak, that are vulnerable. What I saw here was strength, creativity, innovativeness. And why am I saying that? Can you imagine waking up every single day and having to face what they face? Think about the strength that it takes to get up in the morning and say, is this going to be another day like yesterday? And for them to go through it every single day. So I want to thank you for being here, because you are showing us strength. You are showing us how creative you are to get up every single day and keep coming back. Muchísimas gracias. Es lo único que puedo decir. Thank you.
Other questions? Are there other questions from other regents? Yes.
I have a comment, and this really follows up on what Regent Vasquez says. And I'm going to actually respond to the what did I hear, what did I see. So in addition to what he said, what I also heard is we need some support. We need some additional support, some additional protection, some additional perspectives to understand what we're facing, so that in fact we can be successful in our academic endeavors. What I saw was courage, because for you to come before the board, your other colleagues and chancellors, you go back to your campuses now on your own, and we're not all there. And that takes courage, because you never know what may happen as a result of comments that you make. So that's huge. But know that this is a group of individuals who do respect who you are as students in this system. The Board of Regents respects you, all of the chancellors, and those in attendance. So just thank you for your commitment to education, and thank you for commitment to just standing up for what you believe, not only for yourselves, but on behalf of the individuals that you're representing.
Yes, thank you, Ed. I was hoping you would make a comment.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for coming, and let me just say this, that I do admire your strength and courage in speaking to this group. These things have been going on for a long time, but you can make it. And you can see in Jose and Eve, who have gone through some of the things that you've gone through, experienced some of the things you've experienced, that if you continue to persevere and ask for help, people will help you, and you'll get through it, and you'll make it, and you'll be there as an example for the next group, because unfortunately, we can't change this instantaneously, as you know, but we can keep working at it, and I'll promise you that as long as I'm here, we'll keep trying to work to make it better, and I thank you once again for coming.
And we thank you. We want to thank you all for joining us. My colleagues on the board have thanked you as well. Oh, we have one. I'm sorry. I apologize. Regent Higgins.
Thank you, Regent President Milner, and thanks to our panel members for being here. Obviously, it takes guts to be sitting in front of a bunch of us to do this. But, being an old guy, I started my college experience in 1968, and just to give you an example of what that means, I'm from Appleton. I have a good friend now who is sick, and he tells a story about how he got to Appleton in 1968, and the only guy in the county who wore a turban, and how literally cars would stop on College Avenue and point him out. So that's the background. I came from Appleton to go to the UW at Madison. And of course, I was one of those guys who managed to stick my foot in it right away by asking, there were 4 or 5 African-American young men in my dormitory, and I said to Walter, "Oh, are you here on a track scholarship?" And of course, Walter took off, okay? This got around, obviously, to the black people in my dorm. And there was one guy who was on my floor. Now, you got to understand, this is one of those dorms where it's 3 floors for 1 floor. So we're only talking about, 40 or 50 people. And his name was John. And John was one of these ebullient, outgoing individuals, black guy from Milwaukee. And John managed to take it on himself for the next 2 years we were there to help enlighten me. And I want you to know, he had the pen going, but he had it in the nicest possible way. I learned a whole lot about dealing with people who were not my race, because John kept going, "Yeah, Higgins, are you on the track team?" He just kept bringing it up. And he made it front and center for me. And I believe that was a big help to me. And so when I hear statements like, it's not our job to educate the white people, I don't understand that, because, I do think it's your job, just like, I'm Catholic, and I often have to explain where I stand to people who are not. It's part of who I am, and for those who are kind enough not to just admit it, but to ask, I want to do my best. So let's hear what you have to say, because that's one of those things that baffles me.
So I guess let me clarify my statement. So let's take this into perspective, right? So there's about 45,000 people who go to UW, right? And 2.3% of them are black. Less than 1% are Native American. Maybe about 5% are Hispanic, and maybe 10% are Asian American, with more than half of them being international students. So it's my job to get an education. It's my job to learn. It is my job to it's my job to be here and to be a student, and it should not be an extra priority for me to teach people who are more curious about me and ask things like, "Oh, why do you have that thing on your head?" Or ask me things like, "Oh, why did you decide to come to UW-Madison?" Or asking things out of curiosity rather than respect. It's not my job to do that. It is people who get paid to do that. It is not a person that pays to go to the university to do that. So, not saying that I won't answer questions, not saying that I don't have white friends who ask me questions like that, and not saying that I don't answer those questions. It's just saying that if a person says, "Ayo, ISIS," at me, I'm not really interested to have a conversation with them. I'm not really interested to educate them and to prove my humanity to them, because by them saying that to me, they automatically don't see it, and it should not be a burden on students of color to do that, because it is already a burden to be on this campus, on these campuses, and then it's just an extra burden to have to explain yourself, to having to explain your culture and to justify it. So it's not our job.
And it looks as if we're going to have an interesting luncheon discussion, because all of this is going to be that kind of good discussion that Amber, you talked about, and it's a learning for all of us. I want to thank you for joining us today. I also want to thank my fellow regents, our chancellors, and other on the campus who have made time and space necessary to host the topics around this the conversations around this topic. These are conversations about diversity and inclusiveness. There is a lot being done system-wide, and there will be a lot done to effectively understand the challenges and obstacles our students face and to make the challenges and the progress necessary. While there's been a lot while a lot has been done, I am pleased to share another step. I've talked last month and I talked this month about the steps that have been taken, progressive steps that we've taken along the way that we will continue to take. Today is another step that I'd like to share with you on an action about this important issue. Today I'm announcing the creation of a task force to examine underrepresented minority students' experiences that will be comprised of several regents, chancellors, student affairs professionals, and of course, students. The goal is not only to collect and examine perspectives and real-life experiences, but also to examine and, where necessary, recommend areas where our actions are to improve the experiences of all our students. I will share more information with you as we progress in the near future and obviously keep the board up to date on the activities and the progress. I want to again thank you for joining us here today, and we're going to move in across the way to a lunch that we have prepared where we'll have a time to talk to more of your students from all over the system. We have representatives coming from all over the system, and we're looking forward to that. And President Cross, do you have anything to add before I ask if there are any communications, petitions, or memorials? President Cross?
I would just like to pick up for a moment on, and if you'll pardon me, I will speak philosophically for a moment. One of the things that we in academics often do is we believe that any academic course will solve any problem. And it's far more important that we look at this issue from a human perspective, not just how we change the minds, but how we change the hearts of people with whom we live and work. I too add my congratulations to you for doing this. And like others, I think we all ponder these things and wonder, what must I do differently? How must I behave differently? And that's a question of the heart. And I don't think anybody here would ever want you to be, in any way, feel that our campuses are not a welcoming and a warm place for you to be. At the same time, as an academic, I know that part of the pursuit of truth requires that how I think and how I handle things are challenged. So in an atmosphere where free speech is preeminent, it's hard for us to look at ways, how do we control these behaviors and actions that are inappropriate? And yet free. I, as a former veteran, fought for people to have the right to do that, even though I find it repulsive in many cases. So in chances like that, how do you change the heart of people to understand what's appropriate and to behave in a civil way? Forcing someone often only suppresses it. How do we change people? Education changes people, but it also is important that we understand we too have to change. So thank you for reminding us of that today. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you, President Cross. Now we have some, are there any petitions before we thank our hosts? Any petitions? Any memorials or communication? All right, moving on. I'd like to very, very sincerely express our appreciation to our host, Chancellor Miller, and his Green Bay team. This has been an outstanding visit, and your hospitality has been most gracious, so thank you. other than the fact that many of us had an opportunity to drive around the campus and meet other faculty members as we found our way. We've had a wonderful time here. Thank you very much. And I would call on Regent Grebe to please read a resolution to thank you for our April meeting.
Thank you. Whereas the members of the Board of Regents are pleased to recognize the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay as the official host campus for the board's April 2016 meeting, and whereas the board is grateful for the generous hospitality extended this month by Chancellor Gary Miller and the entire Phoenix community, and whereas the board appreciated hearing about the ways UW-Green Bay is celebrating its 50th anniversary while looking to the future as part of Chancellor Miller's presentation, UWGB 50 and Forward, and whereas the members of the READY Committee, Research, Economic Development, and Innovation heard an informative presentation led by Chancellor Miller that highlighted UW-Green Bay's commitment to community and business development, including the innovative and collaborative engineering technology program that UW-Green Bay is offering in conjunction with other UW institutions, and whereas the Business and Finance Committee learned how UWGB is navigating the current fiscal environment from Cheryl Van Groesven, Vice Chancellor for Business and Finance, who also presented to the Capital Planning and Budget Committee the university's capital planning and projects for the 2015-2017 biennium, and whereas the Education Committee thanks Provost Greg Davis for leading a presentation on signature interdisciplinary programs on campus and for explaining the institution's interdisciplinary advantage in the educational marketplace, and whereas the board was delighted to hear from Lorenzo Loans, a UW-Green Bay senior featured in this month's Student Spotlight. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents hereby thanks UW-Green Bay for this month's informative presentations, its forward-thinking spirit, and its many continued contributions to the UW system and the state of Wisconsin.
Now we're going to